everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about Boros Mice in Standard. We're going to talk about the overall deck, the strategy of the deck, the card choices in the deck, and how to play the deck. Let's jump into it. So this is Boros Mice in Standard, and it is decidedly different than the Mice synergies in Gruul, which is like the premier aggro deck. This leans even further into those mouse synergies. And let's talk about the synergies first, and then we'll talk about the supporting cards. So these are all of the mice in the deck. Now, the primary synergies that you should be familiar with if you play Standard at all are the synergies among these cards. So Heartfire Hero is a 1-mana 1/1, has Valiant whenever it becomes a target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on it, which is very powerful. But then when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So when you pump it up with +1/+1 counters and pump spells like Monster Rage and things like that, and then it dies in combat, it deals a lot of damage, which is amazing. The other Valiant card we're playing that you should be familiar with is Emberheart Challenger, which is a 2-mana 2/2 with haste and prowess, which is already pretty powerful. We'd probably play that anyway, but it has Valiant whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability for the first time each turn. Exile the top card of your library until end of turn. You may play that card. And so this obviously triggers off of these auras, off of Monstrous Rage, off of Shard Mage Rescue, all of that stuff, but it also triggers off of Manifold Mouse. Manifold Mouse is a 2-mana 1/2 with Offspring, which means you can make a 1/1 copy of it if you pay that additional 2 mana. At the beginning of combat in your turn, target mouse you control gains their choice of Double Strike or Trample until end of turn. So at the beginning of combat, Manifold Mouse can give Heartfire Hero and Emberheart Challenger their Valiant triggers by giving them Double Strike or Trample. Normally you're going to be giving Double Strike. So that's great. This is already played in the red decks in Standard. But the additional mice that we're playing is Flowerfoot Swordmaster, which is a 1-mana 1/2 with Offspring 2. So again, you can pay that additional 2 mana and get a 1/1 copy of it. And it also has Valiant. So it will also trigger off of these auras and Monstrous Rage and Manifold Mouse. And whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, mice you control get +1/+1 till end of turn. And so this rewards you for having a lot of powerful mice on the battlefield and very much rewards you for going really, really wide with those mice. We're also playing Mabel, Heir to the Cragflame, which is a 3-mana 3/3, says other mice get +1/+1, which having a Lord is already great. The issue is it's legendary, but when Mabel, Heir of the Cragflame enters, create Cragflame, which is a legendary colorless equipment artifact token with equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has Vigilance, Trample, Haste, and Equip 2, which having that extra equipment, especially an equipment that gives vigilance, which allows us to block and attack, is very, very good. But really we're playing this as a Mouse Lord. And between the Mouse Anthem, Mouse Lord, and being able to easily trigger those Valiant abilities and having a lot of mice anyway, this is a really, really cool Kindred deck. That being said, we have some supporting cards. We do have some supporting creatures just to add to the aggro. We're playing Hired Claw, which is a 1-mana 1/2. Whenever you attack with one or more lizards, Hired Claw deals 1 damage to target opponent, and you can pay 2 mana to put a +1/+1 counter on Hired Claw. Activate only if an opponent has lost life this turn and only once each turn. Effectively, this is a 2-power 1-drop in practice, and it's a great mana sink. Sometimes you get flooded and you need to just make a creature huge, and Hired Claw can do that. And we're playing a single Screaming Nemesis in the main deck. Makes combat really weird for our opponent, and makes it so our opponent can't gain life if we're able to get Screaming Nemesis to have dealt damage, which we can do to ourselves with Burst Lightning or Lightning Helix. So that rounds out our creature suite. In addition to that, we're playing some burn spells to get things out of the way in Burst Lightning and Lightning Helix. Burst Lightning is a 1-mana, just a shock, deals 2 damage to any target. However, you can kick it for an additional 4 mana, so 5 mana total, to have it deal 4 damage instead. This gets things out of the way. Burns face for that last bit of damage after they stabilize. And then same thing with Lightning Helix, it's a 2 mana, deal 3 damage, gain 3 life, and it fulfills the same role as Burst Lightning, just a little bit better against the aggro decks. And then we have additional ways to trigger Valiant that also do other stuff. Maybe the best card in the deck, Monstrous Rage, is a 1-mana instant. Trigger creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Create a monster roll token attached to it. A monster roll is an aura that gives Trample and +1/+1. So really this gives +3/+1 and Trample, and the +1/+1 and Trample stay on it. This triggers Valiant and then also makes combat really, really, really hard if your opponent has to play around it. We're playing for Sheltered by Ghost. Sheltered by Ghost is an aura. Auras trigger Valiant when you put them on a creature, which is great for this deck. When it enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Sheltered by Ghost leaves the battlefield, so it's an O-ring effect. And enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has lifelink and ward 2. So great against other aggro decks. This is an other aggro deck killer because is just as fast, and playing the 4 Shelter by Ghost and Lightning Helix is just disgusting. Gets things out of the way and triggers Valiant. And then we're playing 3 Shard Mages. Rescue is a 1 mana flash aura. When it enters, enchanted creature has hexproof, and enchanted creature has +1/+1. So this card can mess up combat, but really we're playing this card to protect our creatures from opposing removal spells, while also pumping up our creatures and triggering Valiant even easier. That being said, as far as the mana base goes, Restless Bivouac can just kind of get there when they wipe our board. We rely a lot more on creatures than the other red decks. But when it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It targets, so it triggers Valiant. So that's something really important to remember. And then we can kind of trigger Valiant on a stick for a lot less mana. With Rockface Village, we can pay 1 mana and tap it to have target lizard, mouse, otter, or raccoon you control get +1/+1 haste until end of turn. This also triggers Valiant, and we just need this land and like one other land to trigger Valiant every single turn. So it's all very, very powerful and really, really reliant on the Mice and Valiant synergies. As far as the sideboard goes, Destroy Evil is for enchantments and creatures with toughness 4 or greater, like specifically for temporary lockdown, are very, very good against that card. Lithomantic Barrage allows us to deal with these like Haughty Djinns and Abernoculuses and things like that. Torture Tower, mostly for these other aggressive decks, makes other Heartfire heroes not trigger, and it's just a decent removal spell. Screaming Nemesis against decks that we're going to be doing a lot of combat with, so we can make combat really, really awkward. You have to remember Screaming Nemesis doesn't combo with our deck, or at least combo with our Mice synergies though. And it's really good against decks that are gaining life, because we can just like Burst Lightning around Screaming Nemesis and not have to worry about that life gain. We're playing 2 Witchstalker Frenzy, because it's a 4 mana card that costs 1 less for each creature that attack this turn. It's really hard to make this only trigger 1 mana. Or only costs 1 mana, and deals 5 damage to target creature. We side this in against decks that have large blockers that we have a hard time attacking through. And then we're playing 3 Sunspine Links, which is a 4 mana 5/4. Players can't gain life, damage can't be prevented. And when Sunspine Links enters, it deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. So we're going to be siding this in against decks that gain a lot of life, but also we're going to side this in against decks that play a lot of different colors and don't have a lot of basics, like Domain. But that is the Boros Mice deck in Standard. If you like this video and want to see more videos like this, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.